Hello, dear friends. I have been following this issue for years, and now it has finally come to light. Opinion piece: Antigravity Engine, Mercury Vortex, developed by Ravi Desai, based on ancient Indian texts. The Nazis used red mercury. Venezuela Supreme Court asks for hidden records. Let's start. The first anti-gravity Mercury Vortex engine that exists in the world is being developed by Dr. Ravi Desai, engineer of Mahindra in India, based on the description of ancient texts that reveal the existence of this device. This research has the potential to revolutionize the automotive industry. The anti-gravity force is based on the idea that the interaction between a Mercury vortex and an electromagnetic field could generate a levitation force or thrust that could overcome the weight of the vehicle and counteract gravity. If he succeeds in making a functional engine for vehicles, we could see an effective alternative to current propulsion systems, reducing dependence on oil and altering the balance of global economic power. At the core of the engine is a container containing mercury surrounded by a set of magnets that creates a rotating magnetic field that forms a stable vortex in the mercury. The next step is to pass an electric current through the mercury, which generates an electromagnetic field that interacts with the vortex created by the magnets. And this interaction produces a propulsive thrust force that is converted into mechanical energy, and this thrust is what is used to propel the vehicle. Definition: the Mercury Vortex engine, also known as Mercury Vortex device or liquid Mercury Vortex engine, is a concept that has been discussed in various scientific contexts. This type of engine is based on the idea of using rapidly rotating liquid mercury to generate magnetic fields or forces that could propel a spacecraft. Mercury, being a liquid metal at room temperature, can be easily manipulated into vortices using powerful electromagnetic fields that could interact with gravitational fields to produce propulsion. This type of engine could offer a very efficient form of propulsion for space travel, overcoming the limitations of the traditional chemical rockets. There is even talk of using Mercury Vortex engines in UFO technologies and secret reverse engineering projects. According to physics Dr. Jack Sarfati at the University of California, in quotes, scientists are very close to producing anti-gravity and a warp drive, a propulsion concept that would allow travel at or above the speed of light. It is based on bending or distorting space-time around the spacecraft. Groups in several countries, including China and the US, are working on developing warp drives. This theory is based on an application of Einstein's theory of general relativity within specifically designed metamaterials. These layered activated metamaterials surfaces from the fuselage of Tic Tacs and are essentially a new class of room temperature thermodynamic superconductors analogous to the current laser light related to Nobel laureate Ilya Prigoghine's dissipative structures. Antigravity. The possibility of employing antigravity as a method to propel a spacecraft has been the subject of many controversies. Antigravity is a force predicted by the laws of high-energy physics that consists of the repulsion of all bodies due to a force that is equal in magnitude to gravity, but instead of being attractive, it is repulsive. Gravity control, antigravity, barycentric electrogravity, G projects or gravitational propulsion. There are many names that have been applied to the attempt to use gravity to generate a repulsive movement. Antigravity is a force that consists of the repulsion of all bodies, a force that instead of being attractive like gravity would be repulsive. With it, two bodies would generate an impulse in the opposite direction, and instead of attracting each other, they would repel each other as if they were two magnets with the same pole. The gravitation is a hypothetical boson, and the graviton, is a hypothetical boson and would be responsible for the gravitational interaction of matter. Its existence is predicted by the current laws of particle physics and the theory of quantum gravity. This boson or subatomic particle would be like a connector to one of the great theories of physics today, such as the theory of everything. Background: during World War II, the Nazis developed a secret technology called the Glocke, the bell, which used red mercury in its operation. It was shaped like a lash bell, hence its name. It is said to have been made of a metallic material and to have been between 2.7 and 4.6 meters tall. Sometimes it's mentioned that red mercury could be mercury iodide or mercury oxide. Mercury iodide is an actual chemical compound that can appear as a red powder. Mercury oxide occurs as a bright red powder or red crystals at room temperature. This compound has specific properties, such as a high density and a low boiling point, but its toxicity limits its use. Some descriptions present it as a special, rare form of mercury that has extraordinary properties. They suggest that it is a radioactive substance or an exotic isotope of mercury. They claim that it was an anti-gravity device or a time machine and was intended to be a very powerful weapon or a revolutionary energy source. The Glocke required a large amount of electrical energy to operate and generate intense radiation when in operation. The effects described include levitation, distortion of time and gravity, and the emission of a violet light. This topic gained popularity thanks to Polish journalist and researcher Igor Witkowski, who wrote about the subject in 2000 in his book The Truth About Wonder Weapons. Witkowski claimed to have accessed secret documents and interviews describing the project. Another author who has explored the subject is Joseph Farrell, who in his books has suggested that the Glocke could have been part of a Nazi program to develop advanced technology with the help of esoteric knowledge. Ancient texts. Ancient Indian texts such as the Vaimanika Shastra and the Samarangana Sutradhara mention aircraft called Vimanas that used engines based on Mercury vortices. According to these sources, these engines would use boiling mercury vapors that would form a helical path, creating a vortex or a whirlpool. This text mentioned the use of advanced engines that used mercury and electromagnetic fields to generate propulsion. The engine operated with a chamber filled with liquid mercury, where electromagnetic fields induce a vortex in the mercury, thus producing a propulsive force. This text have inspired contemporary engineers to explore the possibility of similar technologies. The Vaimanika Shastra is a text attributed to the Hindu sage Maharshi Bharadwaj, discovered in the 20th century by a scholar named Subraya Shastri. The text describes various types of vimanas or aircraft, which used advanced technology based on principles unknown to modern science. According to descriptions, The engines were powered by a chamber filled with liquid mercury, where electromagnetic fields induced the vortex in the mercury, thus producing a propulsive force. The idea is that the boiling mercury would form a helical path, creating a vortex or whirlpool that would provide the force needed for flight. The Samarangana Sutradhara is an encyclopedic treatise on architecture and engineering design attributed to King Bhoja of Dar, written around the 11th century. This text covers a wide range of topics, including the construction of machines and mechanical artifacts. The text also mentions Vimanas and describes construction and operating principles involving the use of mercury and other elements to create flying machines. Breaking news: Solar storm alert for today, Saturday, August 3rd, when a wave is expected to graze the Earth's magnetic field and could trigger a G2 class geomagnetic storm with auroras visible to the naked eye. Global stock markets plunge on fears of a crash after the Fed let too much time pass before it started cutting interest rates, risking damaging the world's largest economy. The stock market plunged again on Friday with the Dow Jones closing down 600 points, the Nasdaq down 2.4%, and the S&P down 6% from its recent record high. Short-term investors fueled a global sell-off. Investors wanted the rate cut. A weak jobs report rekindled recession's fear on Wall Street because the Fed has waited too long to start lowering interest rates. Gold continues to hit new record highs. This could take it to levels close to $3,000. Tension rise in the Middle East due to the possibility of a surprise attack on Iran. For the first time since 2006, Israel has distributed satellite phones to its ministers. They are used when ground towers are out of service or have been destroyed. Americas. The Supreme Court of Venezuela requests the presentation of the hidden electoral records. AMLO describes the U.S. stance on Venezuela as impotence. Argentina recognizes Edmundo González as president-elect of Venezuela. Gas and oil production in Argentina reaches a record level in recent years. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.